Hey, you awesome folks! Thanks for taking this journey of discovery with your guide, Keith Haney. You're listening to the Becoming Bridge Builders podcast, your favorite podcast for everything from racial reconciliation to education innovation, justice reform, and leading change in the 21st century. This podcast is for people who love to be challenged with difficult topics, but want practical solutions to solve these challenging issues. Becoming Bridge Builders makes change possible. Each week on the podcast, Keith invites innovative thought leaders to share how they are building bridges in their area of expertise. You will hear breakthrough ideas and concepts that are changing the world. He's featuring guests who are best-selling authors, leaders at Microsoft, entrepreneurs, leading educators, professors, lawyers, and so many more. Listen in to learn how you can be the bridge to the change you are seeking.
Well, my guest today is a dear friend, Reverend Bill Clark. How you doing today, Bill?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Looking forward to talking to you, talking about the ministry that you have going on and sharing that with the world.
Awesome.
But we're going to start out with my favorite question first. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Yeah, you sent me that question. I landed on two. One was from my grandfather. He said, "You have to be a pretty smart person to be a good liar." He told me it when I was a little kid. And the second one was, it's better to keep your mouth shut and let people think you don't know anything versus to open your mouth and prove that you don't.
Remove all doubt, right?
Yeah. Kind of along the same lines.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. You know, I'm curious, if you think about your life, who are some people in your life who served as an inspiration for you?
I just had a lot of guys in my life that like church my journey's a little different. Didn't grow up in a church per se. Came back to church when I got married, started getting invested in church and different things and met some guys. So there's some guys along the way, guys like Brent and a couple other guys that I met through church that I just thought there's something different about them and started inquiring about what was different about them. And so they've been great friends and great mentors for me.
That's awesome. I love that because, you know, those people mean so much to us. Sometimes they don't know who they are and what impact they've had, but we remember them because of what they meant to us. So I love that.
Absolutely.
So every pastor has a unique journey. So tell us your personal journey into just life and then what led you into the ministry.
Short answer, God. Right. So I've only been ordained since I just got ordained January 10th, I think, of 2016. It was a very cold day in January. I believe the Vikings were playing that day and lost in the playoffs to the Seahawks. I believe that day. It was the day that Bud Grant walked out with short sleeves on. The Vikings played terribly as normal. But yeah, I had no inclination to go to be in ministry. I was, wife, I got 3 kids, working in corporate America in Des Moines, working in insurance, working my way through, working your way up the corporate ladder and start meeting these guys. And really it was a mission trip that got a hold of me and started me, down the path of, it's got to be more to life than just all of this, right?
Right,
and,
exactly.
And so, on one of my first mission trip in 2005, ended up going to seminary in 2013. So between a lot of that time, I was starting to get the nudge, and I even remember having a conversation with my wife about being a pastor. And the first time I brought it up, she laughed at me and thought there's no way. And but through it back, I'm an impatient person. I pushed back. I even hired a guy to be a Christian personal coach, discern different things. And it was a good exercise. I met with him, and when I met with him, his name was Ed, and he said, "What do you want to get out of this?" And I said, "I want you to tell me not to be a pastor." That's what I told him I wanted to get out of it. So
Didn't work out too well, did it?
no, at the end of it, he said, "Well, I'm not going to tell you not to be a pastor, but I'm not going to tell you to be. That's between you and God." So
That's interesting. So, what led you from
yeah.
where you started to where you are now? Tell us about that journey.
And pastoring,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. So I got ordained in 16. I was at Glory Day, big church. We raised our kids up in Urbandale. I was on staff there, and right after I started the specific ministry program, our senior pastor took on our call, and so as things change, and good, bad, or otherwise, but things change, and I originally was going to do men's ministry and missions at that larger church, but then I was filling in, doing pulpit supply at different churches because Pastor Turner, he said, get as much preaching experience as you can get, go fill in. So that's what I was doing. Almost every weekend I was preaching at different churches, and ended up one weekend at Norwalk. And long story short, they called me to be the pastor. There, I think I'd filled in for maybe a year and a half or something like that. And so I was pastor there for year and a half or so. And this could be for another day, but um, believe that God definitely led me there to help close that church, that chapter of that church. I know it's hard for people to hear. It's like, but it was time, and I asked God to be abundantly clear about that, and He was. Um, and so I took about a year off, and then COVID hit. Found myself driving a school bus, right? Still doing pulpit supply, filling in, and it was Martin Luther King Day. It was Monday. I got a phone call from a area code in Kansas. It was the circuit visitor, want to know if I would be interested in hearing about the opportunity to be a pastor at Timothy Lutheran Church in Council Bluffs. And so I didn't recognize the number. I declined it. Actually looked at it later and listened to it, and was kind of floored because I wasn't expecting anything at that time. And so yeah, I just went through that process and accepted the call, and that was January. Accepted the call in March. Started here in May, and I've been here 3.5 years.
So, tell us about Timothy and about the ministry because you have a unique ministry. Having served in kind of an urban area, it's a little different than some other ministry settings. So, describe us a little bit about Timothy and your community.
Yeah, so we're really East Omaha. I mean, there's a river uh, that separates us. We're at West 31st and Broadway, about 15 blocks from the river and from downtown Omaha. So a lot of the a lot of things you see in a city, in like a big city, spill over into Council Bluffs. And being on the west end of Council Bluffs, a lot of people in our congregation were people that raised their families here in this neighborhood, but now have moved away. So there's still some here, but a lot of them have moved away, but they're still here, but they still come back to our church. And so I mean, just call what it is. We're in the rougher part of town, and unfortunately we don't get to leave our doors open. We have to keep them locked all the time because there's a lot of crime. There's a lot of petty crime. There's a lot of drug abuse. There's a lot of mental health issues. There's just a lot of stuff going on around here. Not good stuff either. And so in the middle of the street screaming at the air. It's
Yeah.
not like a happens every once in a while. It happens more than you think it does. And you do actually think this time of year when it gets cold, it kind of tapers down a little bit, but it hasn't. It's bad.
Yeah. Suffering doesn't
So
take a day off, right?
exactly, it doesn't. And drugs don't know if it's cold out or not. The appetite's still there, and so when I got here, we started looking at what some of the things we can do because I mean there's so much you can do here. I mean, to me, you've got to pick something and do it well. Because if you just scattershot, you don't do anything well. And so, what's our church known for? We start bottling clothes with a diaper giveaway, which we do once a month. So diapers and wipes we give away, and it's been going really good. We're getting repeat people. Like probably half the people that come back every month are repeat people, and we're getting to know them. And are coming in, and about half are new, and they just hear about us on Facebook and come in, and we've been doing different things for them. But just get an opportunity to tell the people, it's not about giving something away and just counting the numbers. Get to know the faces, get to know the color of their eyes, get to know their names, find out what their story is. And so I'm really quite pleased that our people do that. They really do. When people walk in, they repeat, they know them, and it's pretty cool to see. So yeah,
I,
and
I,
then
lo- I love that
we do a
about
couple other things, but
I love that about your church, and I'm curious for those listening. One of the things I served in the city too, and what was so hard was you're right, you can't be all things in terms of programs to the community. You have to pick something.
right.
How do you get your people ready? I know my people initially struggle with we want to be part of the community, but we're just not sure how to connect with people that are very different from us. How do you prepare your congregation to connect with people who may not be like them, who may not have the same situations that they're in?
Well, for me, I mean, for me is if I'm going to talk the talk, I better walk the walk, and I better lead by example, because they're looking at you. You're the pastor. You're the shepherd. And if you're just telling them to go do it and stay in the background, they're not going to do it. So, but if you're out there talking, I mean, seriously, if you're out there
Right.
talking to people, I mean, I come here for almost every Saturday that we have our diaper and wipes giveaway. And I've had, like, last Sunday, this girl was having anxiety about, she's like, I have so much anxiety, I don't know what to pray. And she's crying, and she's just sitting there crying. And so I noticed it, and you go over and start talking, or start a conversation, and I've had people ask me, I've had one lady ask me, she's like, well, we were Lutheran in this other town. And I got two little kids. Would you baptize my 2-year-old, my 1-year-old? And I'm like, yes, let's talk about it. So stuff like that. But yeah, you have to lead by example. You got to walk the walk, in my opinion. But you also need to have the conversations. It's just getting beyond of the numbers. I mean, we love the numbers. It's like, how many people did we serve? How many kids was it?
Right.
What if it's a bad week? But the 1 week we had the baptism trumps all those weeks to me. So I mean, we're not here just to give stuff out. I mean, that's not our purpose. So proclaim the gospel.
So you talk about the gospel. I'm curious. I know church is different for you guys than when I was in the parish 13 years ago. How do you approach some of the difficult topics in maybe your preaching or teaching that you have to deal with that maybe I didn't deal with 15 years ago?
You know, we for me, the caveat is I think we spend too much time talking about some of these fraction things. I mean, yes, they've come up, but like I just ask them, like, how often do you encounter a transgender person in your life? How often do you encounter somebody that is whatever, right? Things were going on, right, in our life. It's like this much, I think,
Right.
but we spend all of our time consumed about it. Like, some people want to talk about it. It's like, well, and then they start using words like they and them, and it's like, no, every one of them's a child of God, every single one of them.
Right.
And so God created them in His image, created you in His image. You know, you just go back to just talk about this morning, the Samaritan woman at the well. Jesus made it so He could meet with her one on one and talk to her. And so, as I tell her, everybody's got a story. I mean, everybody's got um, the lives, the struggles, the things that's going on in their lives. It doesn't matter where we're coming from, but you just got to go back to the Word of God. I mean, when we get in those difficult situations, I mean, the Samaritan, well, Jesus showed her compassion, He forgave her, but then what did He tell her? Stop doing what you're doing.
Right.
And that's the hard part, is speak the truth in love, because now society says, well, you're being judgmental, and you're just casting stones, and you're doing this, and you're better than me. And it's like, no, we're not. So
I'm curious as you think about your ministry, what is the next chapter that you see Timothy heading? When I was in the parish, I was always thinking,
mm-hmm.
this is going well. Is there something
Mm-hmm.
else I need to be our next initiative, our next goal, our next community? What's the thing that you're seeing down the road that Trinity Timothy needs to be thinking about next?
I think what's our next generation look like? I mean, and that kind of sounds like everybody's like, oh, yeah, everybody wants to know about that because aging congregation, right? But I don't know too many congregations. I've been here 3 years, 3.5 years. I've done 25 funerals in 25 in 3.5 years here. Which, by the way, has been a great outreach because a lot of these friends and family, the people that have been church members, come back for a funeral and they see it's like, well, something's different here, and I'm missing this. And also, it's a time where people need to hear good news, you know. Um, but like the next day, it's like we've got three couples who've been married 69 years, right? And a lot of the people that were aging out. So what's who's next? Like, what's the next generation? Um, for me, it's like you feel like some days you're pushing a rock up a hill, right? And some
Right.
days it feels like if and then the rock's pushing against you harder, and you can push against it. And I just try to be conscious of what's God's will and what's God's plan here. Just like my last church when I closed it, I want Him to be abundantly clear what He wants us to do. It's not what I want. I can come up with good ideas, right?
Right.
Or ideas that I think that we need to do. But if they aren't God's will and ordained by God, then you're just gonna be fighting it, and it's gonna wear you out, make you tired.
Most
So
definitely. I just
yeah,
saw an article that said that people are okay if the pastor is struggling in their faith. They feel like they're more genuine. How do you talk to people that you run across, and I had them in my church too, who are just having a really difficult time with their faith and they have all kinds of questions and struggles and difficulties? How do you pour into those people?
that's hard because I talk about a lot of people. What do we do when we get to church? We put on our church face, right? We look up in the mirror and get ourselves all pretty, and you know, what's the answer that most people you walk in church? How are you today? "Oh, I'm good. I'm
Right.
fine."
Yeah.
And when really they're like, "I'm a hot mess, and my life is you know not going well right now." And I say a lot of times when I preach, I'm like, I usually write a sermon for myself first. If it doesn't apply to me, I, why am I giving it to you? Because
Right.
like me standing up here, wagging my finger, lecturing at you, right? Like you. I mean, I seldom do I say you from the pulpit. It's we, it's us, right? And I tell them, it's like during confession, I face the altar too, right? And I said, do you know what I miss most about being a pastor? Is having the words of forgiveness spoken over me. No, I,
Right.
I don't get to hear those. I get don't get me wrong. I get to say those, but I don't get to hear them spoken over me like you guys do.
I missed that too. So every once in a while, there's actually a liturgy in the L Lutheran Bible, Lutheran book, service book. Um,
Yeah,
whatever the green one, the green hymnal, where
yeah, the green one. Okay.
where the church actually gets to pronounce absolution over you too. And I would use that probably once a month, just because I wanted to hear it for myself too, and it was part of the liturgy. So I
Mm-hmm.
thought, what a neat way to
Mm-hmm.
kind of do that, so we both are very transparent before one another that we both need that forgiveness. So
I got to write that down. Or just write green book. I know what I mean.
yeah, it was a beautiful piece of liturgy. I was just like, that was whoever thought about that must have been pastor going, hey, I need to hear that myself once in a while.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I just keep telling people my door's open. And one of the funerals I did here for a very a very good guy. I mean, just a great guy. Everybody, he was just really outgoing and stuff. And I just told the family, I said, "Thank you for letting me in your life," right? Because so often when it gets to those tough times, they want to keep pastor away, or keep him at arm's length, and you know, only let us see the good side and you know the good part of our lives. I think the old um, what's that one book from seminary? You're supposed to go out and visit every person in your congregation once, at least every 3 years.
Right.
I don't know if there's 80% of my congregation would let me in the house, you know?
Exactly.
So,
So do you have a favorite Bible verse that you as a pastor kind of say, this is my go-to verse for myself personally?
mm, Yeah, there's several of them, but the one that guy was I there's a couple. One was "Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening" from
Mm,
for Samuel, and if you truly speak that as a prayer and truly want God to speak, then you better be ready for Him to listen. Um, and I love the verse from First Kings: "Arise and eat, because the journey's too great for you." You got to be able to keep learning and feeding yourself, and nourishing yourself. You can't. It's not to be done alone. So yeah.
yeah, I'd always have mine as my signature on my all my emails and things. So I mine changes from season to season.
Yeah, and I don't put that on there. Mine says my little thing on there says "Make every day a mission trip." So
Right.
that's what mine says. Yeah.
That's great. I'm curious, Bill, as you think about the journey you're on now, when this is all said and done and you've preached your last sermon, what do you want your legacy to be?
Yeah, I saw that question. I really struggled with it. I mean, as a pastor, I'm like, okay, if I'm not a pastor and I'm just a dad, well, yeah, I want to be a good dad. Do I want to be a good husband? Yeah, you know, it's kind of like, well, he's a good guy and he did this and he went on mission trips and he did that. When I do a funeral and I tell people this, and I told people from the pulpit, it gives me no greater joy as a pastor. Yes, I'm grieving, but at a funeral, to know without a doubt that they are in heaven.
Right.
And I guess if that's all my legacy is, I'm completely good. Did I do it perfectly? No, but I believed in Jesus as my Savior, and I tried to live the Christian life and knew what forgiveness was, and so that's a good enough legacy for me.
I love that. So as you wrap up our conversation, what do you want the audience to take away from our talk today?
That's really good. It's a good question. There's so many things. I just got back from a mission trip. Just got back Friday, and I love mission trips. I've been on. I've gone since 2005, at least once a year, if not more. Um, and I would love everybody to go on a mission trip. But I understand there's a lot of people that you can't. I mean, I always tell people it's like, oh, I'd love to go on a mission trip, and then they get to the word "but." And I'm just like, yeah, here it comes, right? And it's like, I, you know, I get it, but I wish every person had the opportunity to do at least one short term mission trip just once in their life, um, because you give up control. A lot of people tell me, "Oh, I can hear God speak to me." Well, I always tell them, God is speaking to you. You just have so much other junk going on in your life. You're not listening to Him.
Right.
Um, it opens your heart and your eyes to see things differently. It's um, it just works on your heart. I mean, and my biggest thing with the mission trip is it shouldn't be 1 week. That you live your life that way. You should take it back home, and it should, because we talked last week when we were on mission trips. Like every day, do you have any epiphanies? Is there any epiphanies you had today while you're out in the community or working or doing whatever, that you're going to take home that are going to resonate through your like everydays? And so, yeah, I'm a big proponent of that. I mean, and I'm biased because a mission trip, that's where that's what changed my direction in my life. That's where God got a hold of me and said, "Hey, uh, something better what
Yeah.
you're doing." So for
We
sure.
didn't take a church on one, but we actually adopted a family who was a mission for us. Someone
Hmm.
who located here from Sudan, and it totally transformed our church too. So you're right. Taking the time to give up control and to pour into someone else's life is life changing, and it totally transformed the direction of our congregation. So I agree with you. If you can go on a mission trip and you can see how you can pour into someone's life and to see the impact that has by you doing that, it just does change you forever.
Absolutely, absolutely. So,
Well, Bill, thanks so much for being on. Any last words of wisdom for a young pastor just starting out? You want to kind of with your years of experience in this field?
Oh, my years, my 9 years, right?
9 years is a lot.
Um, um, my biggest thing that I've learned is you got to love your people. You got to love your flock. Um, at the end of the day, they're not going to remember messages. They're not going to remember prayers. They're not going to remember a lot of things. They're going to remember, were you there for them when they needed you, and was their church there for when they needed them? And if you can answer yes to both those things, then go be a pastor. So yeah, we need more of them, a lot more of them. But it takes you got to have the heart for it. You can have the brain knowledge and everything else, but you got to have the heart for it. And if you don't have the heart for it, this would be a really hard thing to do.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, Bill, thanks so much for taking the time to kind of give us some insights into what's happening in Timothy and Council Bluffs and how God is using you to make an impact in that community.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Do you know that most entrepreneurs hit a revenue ceiling and have no idea why? They're working harder, spending more money, running more ads, but revenue stays flat. My friend Dr. Noah St. John calls this the invisible break. He's giving our listeners a free revenue ceiling audit to help you see what's really holding you back. You'll get a free 30-day membership to NoahBot, giving you access to Dr. Noah's 30 years of experience to help you reach your next level. But hurry, because there's only 50 available this month. So if you're tired of being stuck at the same revenue level and want to finally break through, get your free revenue ceiling audit at drnoahvault.com in the affiliate link that'll be listed in the show notes.